Hey everybody, this is Matt. I'm making a new Heroclix video, and this video is going to be reviewing the super rares from the most recently released Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Heroclix set, Heroes in a Half Shell. Now I know when I did my unboxing video, I made a video talking about the one super rare I did pull, which was Raphael. But in the meantime, I've gotten my hands on the other super rares. Thankfully, I got a really good deal from someone on the internet. You know who you are, and just a really generous deal. And I was able to get my hands on these really quickly, and I just wanted to make a video talking about how cool they are and what their powers do and everything. Because I mean, this is the quickest I've ever completed a non-chase set. It's kind of crazy, and I'm actually really excited about it. I mean, I could finally play the. Well, I'm still okay. On to the review. On to the review. Okay, so let's start out with Michelangelo. Let's look at his card. I was almost rambling there, everybody. So I kind of caught myself. Okay, so he has TMNT, TMNT ally, animal, and martial artist keywords. Also, it's kind of weird. They have it over here now. They can improve movement. They can move through elevated and through hindering terrain. Okay, so what's really nice is they have the stealth traded, and they can move through hindering terrain. So they're really safe when they're in hindering terrain. You want to keep them in hindering terrain because then they can't get shot at. And then also they have improved movement elevated, so you can keep them on elevated terrain, protected too, and then maybe charge off the elevated terrain to someone that can't see you up there. So then he also has a special defense. Michelangelo can use combat reflexes and super senses. I think that's about it on his thing. Let's look at the sculpt. I mean, I think that's what I'm here for mostly. Look at this sculpt, dude. It's crazy. He has this Thor thing going on. Anybody remember Age of Ultron? Was it Age of Ultron? Yeah, I think it was. There was a Thor in there that was doing the same exact thing with Mjolnir. It's a really cool effect. It is a really, really cool effect. Let's see. Can I zoom this in slightly better? That's slightly better, slightly worse. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. But very cool sculpt. It looks like he has his other nunchuck in his hand. Oh, okay. Really cool. 100 points. Each of these turtles are 100 points, and I'm not sure if I really like them for 100 points. They have issues. We'll look at the dial in a second. He does have starting out probability control, which is pretty nice. And my cat's meowing at my door, so you may hear my cat. Let's look at this. Let's look at his dial. Okay, so he starts out with charge and quake, and he has starting out probability control, and he has ending probability control, and he has perplex right there. I mean, he's pretty supportive in that lower area. Charge, quake, and that's the super senses, combat reflexes. Yeah, super senses, combat reflexes, starting out and ending. See, here's the issue, okay? All he has is super senses and combat reflexes, and then he has traded toughness. So, like, if he's not in stealth, and someone shoots him from range, that'll bypass the combat reflexes. If they're using psychic blast, that'll ignore the toughness. So, and then basically all he has to rely on is super senses, which basically has his entire dial. But with more and more pieces, especially in this set, that have precision strike, it's just gonna ignore the super senses. It's gonna go past the toughness, and if it's a ranged precision strike, it's gonna ignore the combat reflexes. I mean, it leaves them really vulnerable. What I'm trying to say is, for 100 points, I mean, they're just very vulnerable to damage, unless they're in stealth. And thankfully he has a little bit of range. So I mean, he could put himself in stealth and just try to ping people 3 squares away. And especially this middle dial where he doesn't have any movement attack and he's just like flurry. I mean, if they hit you onto there and you're just sitting there in the middle of the field with flurry, I've had that happen too many times, especially with like the pieces from Civil War set. And you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, I moved out here. I already have a token. I could push myself to try to base somebody, but I'm going to be taking another damage, or I could just sit here and just get shot up. I don't know. And it's a 9 attack at the very end. It's pretty weak. I guess it's Smoke Cloud. I guess that's useful because he has traded stealth, I guess. Yeah. I mean, the sidestep's okay. I mean, it's an okay piece. It's an okay piece. I'm not gonna say he's the Michelangelo I would play 100% of the time, you know. But he has some usefulness. I'll say that. Okay, so jumping into an utter beatstick is Armagon, and let's look at his card first. So Armagon is TMNT villain, of course, animal, future. That's interesting. It's scientist. Now this one, before we get into that, this was the Michelangelo from the IDW series. That's the 2011 comic series. And this is an Armagon from the 1988 comic series. So this is Mirage. This is like the very first comic book series for Ninja Turtles. And look at his dial. Whew. Okay, let's look at this card. Beware his tail. Give him a free action when he has 2 action tokens and make a close attack. Dang, dude. That means like he could attack someone. Next turn, attack him again because he's indomitable. And then right after he attacked him on his second turn, because he has 2 action tokens, he could attack a second time that turn. And then on the third turn, before he clears, they'll still have 2 action tokens. He can attack again. And then he clears. And then on the next, oh mate, that means he can attack basically every single turn. And he ignores characters for movement purposes. That's right here. So like if he's charging or anything, he can just move past them. Never has to break away. Just really decent stuff. He has, that was his trait. His special damage is Armagon can use probability control. He can use it normally or he can use it twice on your turn, but only to target himself. So I guess he can use it normally on the opponent's turn, but then on his own turn he could use it to target anybody, or he could just target himself twice. Man, dude, that's just gonna make sure he hits you. I mean, he's gonna make sure that he hits you basically, you know. And look at all the different powers he has. Whew. Let's look at the sculpt. Let's look at the sculpt. Okay, he barely fits on the camera. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit better on him. It's kind of hard because he's so big. But look at this dude. This dude's huge. The red really pops on him. I mean, it like really stands out. Yellow. It looks like almost like an exoskeleton he has around him. Well, he has like a Batman utility belt like down here, even though it's not yellow like Batman. But he has like mini utility belts, or I don't know what are those things. I don't know what all this stuff is going on in his body. I know Armagon from the Nicktoons cartoon show. And in that show, which we'll likely get one in the next set, in that show, basically he's wearing a big suit of armor that looks like a shark. This one, it literally looks like a shark that has just a little bit of prosthetics around his body. Kind of crazy, dude. It's kind of crazy. He's 170 points. So I think he's the highest point character in the set. In this set at least. And he's tied with Kraang, which is 170 points too. Really huge. I mean, just look at the scale. Look at the scale, dude. I mean, he is freaking huge. And I'm happy I got him because I think he'd be really easy to cherry pick in booster packs. You know? Okay, let's look at his dial. Let's look at his dial. Okay. So he has a very, very long dial. He has 8 clicks of life for 170 points. And almost every single click of life has a 17 or better defense and some damage reducer of some sort. Then he starts out with phasing. And I know what you're saying. Oh, he doesn't have move and attack on his first click. That's kind of sucky. But you have to understand like his play style, okay? So turn 1, he's going to move out 12 squares, okay? He's going to pick up an object while he's doing it because he has super strength, okay? And he's dolphin, so you know he can move through water without any issues. Turn 2, he's gonna run up right in your face and hit you really hard. No, turn 2, he's just gonna run up right in your face. But because of his special damage ability, or no, his special trait, you can give him a free action when he has 2 action tokens. That means he can turn 1, move halfway across the map. Turn 2, move the other way across the map, base your dude. At that point he has 2 action tokens, and then he can smack him with an ultra heavy for 7 damage. And he has a special damage ability at that point, where he can use probability control twice on his own turn, but only to target himself. And he has improved movement characters, so even if you put him behind all your dudes, I can still just get right up to your dude, especially since he also has phasing on that click. So basically, if he can reach you within 24 squares, he's gonna hit you for 7 damage, pretty much guaranteed. 11 attack, he gets 3 rolls at it because of the double probability control. Unless you just like can burn all your theme PCs and maybe you're sitting on a 21 or something. I mean, yeah, he's hitting you pretty dang hard. And then then he'll bounce on the charge, so he can keep doing his thing. Then he loses his double prob and gains just regular prob, and now he's down to invincible 18 defense, which is arguably even stronger than he was at. I mean, back when he had 17 defense with invulnerability, I think invincible is a better defense power overall. And now he can run his shot in psychic blast with 11 attack, still with probability control. And if he ends up somehow next to you, or you base him or something, and he has 2 action tokens, he can just punch you. I mean, he's still doing 4 damage at that point. Still doing 4 damage. And then let's say you somehow keep doing damage to him, and he bounces onto impervious with sidestep, so he can still keep moving slightly. And I think is that exploit weakness? That is exploit weakness. Okay. So then he has exploit weakness, so he's like, okay, if you also have toughness, invulnerability, or impervious, I'm just gonna eat right through it basically. And a 10 attack at that point is still okay. He may have a little bit of trouble biting somebody, and he doesn't have probability control anymore. Still though, hopefully he's taking out your main threat and maybe your second in command on your team. And then if you somehow just luckily knock him on to click 8, he can try to regenerate back up onto his middle clicks, and just be disgusting all over again, So this guy never stops. He just never stops. Just doesn't stop. I mean, his trait even just says, if he has 2 tokens, he still gets to attack, basically. This guy is ridiculous for 170 points. I think playing him in a 300-point build with any amount of support, whether that's another prob, any kind of perplex, 20 points for the bat signal would be insane. Can you imagine? You play him with the bat signal and like a 10-point thug, okay, for 30 points. No, wait. The bat signal is only 2 points. Okay, for 12 points, you'd have to run some kind of other TMNT villain, but for 12 points, he runs across the map, hits somebody for 7 on the second turn of the game, and then the bat signal summons him all the way back. Oh, this guy's insane. That guy's insane. He's not my playstyle. I don't normally play super tanky beat stick. I take up more than half of your point total on your team pieces, but he's insane. And I'm realizing I've reviewed 2 pieces and we're at 13 minutes. This video is going to be a little bit longer, but I'm going to go into depth into each of these pieces and be a little bit more critical about them and talk about like competitiveness and stuff like that. So that's why this video may be a bit longer. So I apologize if it's a bit longer, but thank you so much for sticking around. Okay, so Raphael, and I did a review of him in the other video. He's a lot like Michelangelo. He has traded stealth and toughness, improved movement, elevated and hindering. Now he has a special thing. He can use some power. That's always useful. When Raphael is missed by an attack, remove an action token from him. If you cannot do that, modify the attacker's defense value by -1 until the end of your next turn. So what I like about that is, given the right scenario, because they're not indomitable, sadly, they're not indomitable. Given the right scenario where your opponent had enough people trying to attack Raphael and each of them were missing, Raphael could just continue to attack and continue to attack and continue to attack. But it also puts him in a bad situation because, similar to Michelangelo, they're very kind of fragile if they're not sitting in stealth and your opponent's shooting them with ranged attacks. So Thankfully, it's missed by any attack. But I mean, let's look at it. Let's look at the doll. I mean, the sculpt once again. He's like jump kicking. Very, very cool sculpt. 100 points, just like Michelangelo. All the IDW turtles are 100 points. Very cool sculpt. Got his 2 sides in his hands. Very, 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 very cool sculpt. Very cool sculpt. Nice little clear thing effect. Okay, and let's look at his doll. I think, you know, it's a really nice trait, but at the same time, all he has, he doesn't even have super senses like Michelangelo, you know. All he has is toughness and combat reflexes. And if he's not in stealth and they're shooting him, yeah, he's just, I feel like he's just gonna go down like a rock, basically, you know. His best case scenario is for him to base. Hopefully, the opponent's entire team are all grouped together, and he can jump right into the middle of them, so that they can't really get away to range attack him, and that hopefully with the combat reflexes, it'll increase his defense, so that the opponent is missing more attacks towards him. But the second they start shooting at him, I think it's just going to be downhill from there. You know, he just doesn't have much defenses, and for 100 points, I mean, my issue with these turtles for 100 points is that we got 75-point chase turtles from the first set that can have impervious when they're next to any other turtle, which is a fantastic defense power. You have multiple sets of 60-point turtles, and you have 50-point turtles. I mean, you have so many different options for turtles that maybe would have 1 click less of life, but would have just as much survivability for 40 or 50 points less, you know? And that makes a difference when, you know, you want to run 2 of these turtles or 3 of these turtles. I mean, for 3 of these turtles, you could run all 4 50-point turtles from the first set, plus like a splinter and then like a mutagen canister. You know, I mean, you can run. I mean, they take up a lot of points, honestly. You know, and I don't know if they're really, really worth it. I think maybe if you could put like a resource on them and give them like traded give them like invulnerability their entire dial. Like if you're using Phoenix Force and you keep the Colossus fragment on the Phoenix Force and just give everybody on your team invulnerability their entire dial. I would say yes, that would improve that would improve it a lot, you know. But at the moment, I feel like 100 points for them, you know, it's just a little bit high in my opinion. Okay, so this is Kraang Subprime. Let's look at his. I think and probably an it. I don't know if Kraangs have or Utroms have sexes or anything. This is Kraang Subprime. TMNT villain, Utrom, and robot. Okay, and also improved targeting 00. Okay, I think what that means is I did not look that up ahead of time, but I can always pull out my rule thingy. What that means is I should have looked it up ahead of time. Okay, here we go. 00 means may make a ranged combat attack targeting adjacent opposing characters. Okay, so what that means is normally, if Raphael runs up to Kraang Subprime and he's like, "I'm on ya, mister," Kraang Subprime would only be able to punch Raphael because you're tied up with Raphael. You can't do a ranged attack. But because Kraang Subprime has the improved targeting, that means it can use ranged attacks like Psychic Blast and stuff like that, or Energy Explosion. Probably wouldn't want to do Energy Explosion because it'd probably hit itself. Maybe, I don't know. But it could do Psychic Blast even though someone was right next to him, which is kind of weird because I don't know if the giant size allows for the same thing. I'm not really sure. But this is what the sculpt looks like. Basically, if you don't know the story, Irma, which it's kind of hard to see, but I'll zoom in. Irma, this girl right here, she's April O'Neil, her classroom friend, and April O'Neil doesn't know much about her. I mean, we just know she's a classroom friend. Well, they find out that she's really a Kraang, or as they call him in the TV show, an Utrom. and in disguise basically. And this all transforms from that little body back there. And this is a Kraang Subprime, so basically kind of like the second in command, you know, like a Subprime. Like Kraang Prime would be the first in command, but Kraang Subprime is like the second in command. And he chases them into space, and I kind of wish this would have come out in the next set when they're in, you know, talking when they're adding figures from space and stuff like that. But I mean, it's an interesting sculpt. I'll say that it's interesting. Let's see if I can get some a little better. It's interesting. I'll say that much. It looks really weird, actually. It looks really weird. Um, but it's also pretty big. Again, if you compare it to Michelangelo, um, it's pretty big. Compared to Armagon, Armagon is bigger. Yeah, he's definitely bigger. Armagon's just huge, though. Okay, and let's see. 160 points, so almost as many points as Armagon. As you can see, she is giant size. So let's look at her down. Or let's look at her powers if she has any powers. Non-essential parts. Once per game, when Kraang Subprime would take damage, you may instead place an autonomous head bystander as described on this card within 3 squares in line of fire. When he does, modify his attack value by -1 for the rest of the game. So what they're talking about is if you open up the card, because it's a two-sided card now, you see this little thing. You can so let's say they're like, I'm bringing my Armagon across the map, and I can do 7 damage to your Kraang Subprime. Or you're like, okay, I'm gonna take 0 damage, and I'm gonna pop this autonomous head out. And basically, autonomous head can sidestep and can outwit. That's useful, and has 18 indomitable super senses. So he can just keep moving and moving and moving and moving. I guess it's just its sole reason is just to move around and outwit as much as possible, you know. But the problem is like Kraang Subprime gets -1 attack for the rest of the game, so that's kind of bad, you know. But it is a nice it's a nice ability to just like ignore the opponent's alpha strike, basically, you know. And then for his special movement, Kraang Subprime can use Force Blast, Plasticity, and Running Shot. Okay. So Plasticity will help against hypersonic speed. So if like a Michelangelo or is indoors and he's going to hypersonic speed up to you, he'll automatically stop and won't be able to actually attack you. Unless he does a range attack. Force Blast it has some use with Running Shot. So that if you Running Shot and shoot somebody, you can also knock them back. So that's useful. And let's look at the doll. So 160 points. Now, did Armagon, how many clicks did Armagon had? Armagon had 8 clicks of life, really tanky for 170 points. Kraang Subprime has 7 clicks of life, not as tanky for 10 points less. So right off the bat, I'm saying I don't know if the point system's working here that well. I guess the difference is that Kraang Subprime can shrug one really powerful attack per game, basically. Starts out with charge with a heavy. So I mean, it can charge with super strength, so it can pick up an ultra heavy. So, but it only has 3 damage. You know, Armagon had 4. So I mean, again, it's already hurting. It does have shape change, and it starts out with invincible, which is stronger. Indomitable. Armagon was indomitable too. I'm kind of comparing them because they're both kind of around the same points. So the shape change will help a little bit, you know. So shape change and the ability. So I mean, he could possibly be dodging attacks, you know, with shape change, and then you finally get one through, but then it pops off a token, and we have to look at his attack values because once he pops off that token, his attack value is going to go down -1 the entire game. So all those 11s become 10s, all those 10s become 9s, and that last click of 9 becomes an 8. And I would say, you know, past right here, like once you hit this, if you're in the 9 territory with the attack, thankfully he has perplex around that time, so he could perplex back up to a 10 attack. But boy, is that gonna be rough on like with an 8 attack on his very last click. I don't think he's gonna be able to hit anybody with an 8 attack. I mean, I don't know. And then he doesn't get the special movement, which was the running shot force blast plasticity, until the middle of the dial. So you know what I'd almost rather. I mean, he has 7 range, so it's not like you. But without any kind of running shot, if you could just stay outside of his range the entire game, I almost would not even mess with him. Take out all his support pieces, and then just stay away from him. Because if you pink him, if you hit him hard enough that he bounces onto his running shot, and he hasn't like taken the token, if he hasn't made the head token yet, then he actually becomes a bigger threat with running shot, psychic blast, perplex. He can perplex himself up to 4 damage, and suddenly he's hurting your team pretty dang bad. Of course, if you could hit him over there and then hit him again onto the last few clicks, yeah, he basically, yeah. And of course, if you can pink him off of the invincible and then hit him with some psychic blast, that could hurt him pretty dang bad, because he has nothing but just regular damage reducers at that point. It's an interesting doll. It gives you a little bit more room to run support pieces with them, with 10 more points available in your team build than Armagon. But I think I'd rather just have Armagon, in my honest opinion, for 10 points more. I think so. Not a bad piece though. And the last piece is Renee Tilly. Let's look at her doll. TMNT ally, future and past. That's interesting, both future and past. Take us when and where we need to go. Renee Tilly can use phasing, teleport, and sidestep. She can use the carry ability, and when she does, she can carry up to 4 characters. Surprise, surprise. Now, what's interesting is in this set we had a Fugitoid that could carry 4 characters, but they had to share a keyword with them. Renee Tilly can carry 4 characters, but they don't have to share a keyword with her. So she may actually see some play, like in competitive play. I mean, yeah. I mean, she can carry any 4 characters. What I like about her is I could play her with some bad guys. I know she won't have the right keyword. I understand that. But the longest time I was like, I wanted to play Shredder and Bebop and Rocksteady and stuff. But, the allies, the TMNT allies had Fugitoid that could carry their entire group all the way out there, And then again the next turn and, had Indomitable. Well, Renee Tilly can carry Shredder and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. Bebop, Rocksteady, Shredder, that's 240 points. Renee Tilly is 50, that's 290. That's not bad. I mean, 10 points, I don't know what you can fit on for 10 points, but, she could at least carry the group out there. And it looks like she has probability controls. That would come in use. Then she can use probability control regardless of range and line of fire. That's pretty crazy. Let's look at her sculpt. She has a really nice sculpt. The blue is just really pretty. That's actually a pretty nice paint job, don't you think? Let me zoom in really, really close. Okay. This is getting tricky. There we go. That's not a bad paint job. I know it doesn't look right. It looks like, yeah, her mouth is lower than her lips. Yeah, okay, that's the only downside. But still a really, really cool sculpt. I mean, it's really beautiful with a water effect. Really nice. Matches her costume. I didn't say this, but Kraang Subprime is from the Nick Turtles cartoon show, and Renee Tilly is from the Mirage comic series. So she's from the original comic series. And the one we got in the first set was from the IDW comic series. So we still need to get one from the Nick Turtles and maybe other ones. So we may see another remake of her. I think some people are getting a little bit disappointed with all the remakes and stuff. But I mean, that's what you get when you're trying to represent all the different generations of turtles. You end up with different versions of different ones. You can't have Shredder. You can't not have Shredder from all the different generations. You can't not have the turtles. You can't not have Splinter. So cool little sculpt Very beautiful sculpt, actually. Both the Renee Tilly sculpts have been really nice looking, actually. Okay, let's look at the doll. So she's 55 points. Okay, so actually, it would have been 295 instead of 290. That build I was thinking about. She has 12, and that's the phasing. Or not? Yeah, no, yeah, that's the phasing, teleport, sidestep, carry 4 characters. So she has that starting out and at the very end too. Her attack value is low, but at least she has probability control, and with a 17 energy shield deflection, it means that they're gonna have to hit a 19 twice with her probability control most likely. Then if you push her, which you may, because you may do something where first turn you carry everybody halfway across the map, next turn you carry everybody again halfway the other way across the map, and then you push her, and then she lands on that probability control that the card flew away. That she can use regardless of range and line of fire. That's pretty crazy. I mean, that is pretty freaking crazy, dude. I mean, you could be on the other side of the map and she could still prob you. I mean, that's better than that Chase KC Spectre, you know, that had like 12 range and could prob regardless of line of fire. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And then that's interesting. She actually, you know, one more damage. She bounces onto kind of an offensiveness, you know, with charge and blades. That's pretty nice. I mean, she reminds me in that aspect of Pixie from the Uncanny X-Men, where she was more of a support piece, but after she took a damage or two, she landed on some like really nice charged blades. I'm gonna get in your face. I could surprise you with some damage, and I can prob it. That's not bad. And then she ends up with, looks like, is that Quake? That's Quake, okay. I don't really know Quake, but okay, Quake. And then she could run away again with the phasing carry and super senses and prob. I mean, 55 points, you could do a lot worse than Renee Tilly, in my honest opinion. She's great support for any kind of turtle team you want to put together. She is TMNT ally. So, really good stuff. Now, what's interesting is you could actually have Fugitoid carry Renee Tilly and 3 other people. Then have Renee Tilly, can she carry Fugitoid? And then the other 3 people? I don't know, but that'd be really cool if you could pull that off. But anyways, these were the super rares from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 set. Heroes in a half shell. That's what it was. I was like, kept thinking, I keep saying turtles in a half shell, and that makes no sense. It's like, yes, turtles have a shell, Matt. Yes, that makes sense. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this longer video. I took a bit more time per each piece, but I really wanted to take my time with them because they're super rares and they're supposed to be really, really good. And they're really cool looking, and I'm just really happy to have them. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope you have a lot of fun playing Heroclix in the future, and have a fantastic day, everybody. Bye-bye.